Hey guys, this is Comic Uno, and today I'm doing Comic Uno's Best Comics of the Week, and this is the show where I review all the comics I've read this week in one show. We go least favorite to best pick of the week and everything in between. And before I get started, we do the viewer's pick of the week at the end of the video, so in the comments below, let me know your pick of the week for a chance to be featured. We also do have a Kickstarter going on, The Little Mermaid and the Pirate Queen. It is about the Little Mermaid and her having feet now, and feeling like she doesn't belong in either world. She doesn't want to be fully a mermaid, doesn't want to be fully a human, but what does that bring her? And of course there's a pirate queen that can be both, so she decides maybe that is a future she can have as well. So go check out that comic. It's a safe for work and not safe for work version of the book, so if you like Marvel Red Band, it's a great way to pick up both versions. So now let's jump in. We have 15 books this week. Number 15 for me is X-Men Xavier's Secret, issue 1. I expected this to be more of a tie-in to what's going to happen with Xavier in that new arc coming up for X-Men, but it really felt more fillerish. I was honestly surprised to focus so much on Jean and Scott in the beginning. I just didn't really love the artwork for this either. It just didn't really feel like the premiere art it should have for something I thought was leading into this bigger event. So overall, giving that 1.5 stars, and that is number 15. Moving on to number 14, it's back to the bottom, and that is The Amazing Spider-Man issue 66. I really just didn't love Peter in this issue, where we get to see him down on the dumps, and we've seen this version of him before, and I still don't really feel like there's a strong reason on why he quit to be Spider-Man, but he quits, and he's like, oh, everyone's gonna die anyways. He has a fight with his girlfriend. Seems like he's hooking up with Black Cat and cheating on his girlfriend. I'm like, this doesn't feel like Peter. There's just nothing interesting to me here. The thing I liked about this issue was the art. I thought that was a bit stronger, but overall, I'm not loving this direction for Spider-Man. Do I want Black Canary to be with Peter? Yeah, I think that'd be a really fun story. Like, I thought, if we can't have Mary Jane, why not Black Cat? She's such a great character, but I felt like they were both out of character here. And I just don't know where the series is going, honestly. Once he becomes Spider-Man again, what's the direction of the character? And then his personal life kind of feels all over the place as well. I do just think that this book needs a better direction. So, yeah, like I said, giving that one 2 stars. Let me know if you think Black Cat will fix everything. Moving on to number 13, and that is Wonder Woman issue 17. This one I was really disappointed with. I love the art. I love the potential of the Wonder Girls being here, but it is almost the same exact story as we've been getting for the past 5 issues with Wonder Woman's monologue about Steve. Nothing really progressing on the Steve front or her daughter or the Lasso of Lies guy. It just kind of feels like it's at a standstill, which Tom King tends to do with his ongoings. I don't love that part of his writing. So giving that one 2.5 stars, and that is number 13. Moving on to number 12, which is Hyde Street issue 3. Not a bad issue by any means. I think this actually be a lot higher for people, but for me personally, I don't love these characters. I like the horror idea. I like this town all being horrible people, but the two are mainly the X-ray guy we know a little bit about, but don't really get in his head very much, and then the Boy Scout, interesting enough character, but their interaction just doesn't sell it for me. I like the Santa Claus stuff, though. I thought Swindler, who is Santa Claus, was cool, but it wasn't really the focus here. But then also, I don't know if I want this to only be a one-shot book where you get these random Grimm fairy tale type style stories. So I'm torn on this book. I don't know what direction I really want it in. I love the art. I love that this Ghost Machine's doing horror. I just wish I had more of a connection to it. So overall, giving that one 2.5 stars. We'll see if I pick up the next issue. All right, moving on to number 11, which is Archie Mr. Justice, issue 2. This one in particular, I liked issue 1 a bit more, but I liked seeing Veronica's point of view. I like her more anti-hero stance and her just kind of being upset that Archie is Mr. Justice, or Mr. Justice exists in general. I thought the artwork could be a little stronger with this one, but overall, I had a fun enough time. It's cool to see Archie as superheroes, so I'm also curious to see where Betty's gonna go in the next issue. So I'm giving that one 2.5 stars, again, mostly because of the art. Moving on to number 10, which is Absolute Wonder Woman issue 4, a little higher than Wonder Woman itself. I'm still not sold on the vibe of this book. The art style is not particularly my thing, but I like where the story's going. They deal more with Wonder Woman's robotic robotic arm. We learn a little bit more about the players, and we see monsters being fought. I do think this is a bit of a point A to point B issue. I'm curious to see where it's going to go. I'm not a huge Wonder Woman fan usually, so that's why I'm like, oh, I think if you're a huge Wonder Woman fan, you'll love this. But as a casual Wonder Woman fan, I'm still seeing how I feel about it. So giving that 3 stars, and that is number 10. Moving on to number 9, which is Justice League Unlimited, issue 3. I think this book has a lot of potential. It feels a lot like the cartoon, obviously, and it's very much playing homage to that. But I think there's just a lot of characters. There's a lot of times where I'm like, oh, cool, let's focus on the character who's been lost for forever, and him being homeless. That's such a cool story, but you can only fit 3 pages with that. And then you jump into Swamp Thing and Plastic Man, and there's just so much going on in this book that I don't really know what the identity is right now, besides like, here's all these superheroes, they're all working together. So I want to see it slow down a bit more and focus more on 1 or 2 characters, and then maybe jump to another character in the next issue. But I do think the big cast sometimes is harmful in that regard. But I like Dan Mora's artwork a lot for this one, and I'm still curious to see where it goes, and I like seeing characters like Carol and Star and Stripe show up here. Stargirl and Stripe. Alright, moving on to number 8, which is Powerpuff Girls issue 7. I just have a fun time with this one. If you like Powerpuff Girls, read it. I think it does a good job at feeling like the old cartoon, but feeling also like it's a modern story. I like the New Year's resolution aspect, where they all have these New Year's resolutions, and Blossom's like, we have to stick with them, and Buttercup is like, nah, maybe you don't have to. That's a lot of pressure. And I like that was Blossom was kind of the villain in this one, and them kind of deal as a trio with expectations. So I liked it. You also get a lot of character appearances from like Mojo Jojo and the rest of the crew. So fun issue, good art. Giving that one 3 stars. Moving on to number 7, which is Black Canary, Best of the Best, issue 3. I like everything surrounding the fight so much more than the fight. Like, I get the tension they're building in the fight of, like, what's Black Canary gonna do? Why is she here? But the stuff with her mom and the stuff with Vandal and Batman is so much more interesting to me, and obviously it's built because of the fight, but I like their interactions, and I am curious about the mystery of why is she doing all this, what's gonna happen. But yeah, I like this issue. The artwork is strong enough. I do think it's a little grittier than I'm used to for a Black Canary series, but curious to see where this is going to go. So giving that 3.5 stars, and that is number 7. Moving on to number 6. A little lower than usual, but still had a good time with it. And that is Ultimate Spider-Man issue 13. With this issue, surprised to see Spider-Man's son as the Venom character, but I like the circumstances there. I was actually much more entertained with that than dropping us 2 months later into the Savage Lands, what it seems like, and Kraven the Last Hunt version of that story. I liked the bones of it. I enjoyed, them knowing their family and just being so primal to, all right, we just gotta survive. I enjoyed that, but I'm like, all right, but how about that time skip? Like, I don't know how to feel about that. It does feel like, I don't know if it needed a time skip. So, I enjoyed the issue. I'm curious to see where this one's gonna go, but, I'm not certain on this issue as a whole, but I'm curious about the arc as a whole, if that makes sense. So, giving that 3.5 stars, and that is number 6. Moving on to number 5, which is the Tin Can Society, issue 5. I just think this book moves along really well. It gets you right into the character's head, makes you learn more about the group, and always gives you a cliffhanger about the bigger mystery of the character who was murdered, and now there's a baby involved, and you're like, okay, I'm interested. I want to see where this goes. I like how the story's been unraveling. So giving that one 4 stars, and that is number 5. Moving on to number 4, which is Detective Comics, issue 1093. I like this potential of this family who knew Bruce's parents and maybe possibly is the villain. It does seem like it's lining up to that. And I like the Robins, they're more than just the Robins, but the sidekicks being involved here and the care of these children of Gotham. I just think it's a really interesting story, from just the idea of these kids being harmed to just getting to see the Bat family, but then this kind of bigger arc with Bruce's parents and this character, this mysterious villain in the end. So I liked it. I think it's well balanced. Artwork is so good. I really love Mikhail Janin's style, and I just think this is a great creative team. So giving that 4 stars, and that is number 4. Moving on to number 3, which is the Uncanny X-Men issue 9. I really like this. I like learning about the new characters. I didn't miss David Marquez's artwork. I do think that was the slight negative here, just because I think the artist here, who usually does like Birthright, he just I didn't think fit for this compared to what we've been seeing with the book. But I love this, again, learning more about the kids. The cliffhanger ending that I think one of the kids died. We don't know, but it seems like that. I just like seeing the mentors try to connect with them and us learning more about them. I think Becca's character is probably queer, so it's gonna be fun to see her story kind of evolve. So I like that. But yeah, there's a lot of good nuggets in this one. So giving that 4 stars, and that is number 3. Moving on to number 2, which is Power Rangers Prime, issue 3. And I like this. I'm liking this, like, new generation of Power Rangers. It feels like the show is unraveling, except you're reading it as a comic for the first time. And obviously, it's also more for adults and not just kids. But I like the dynamics that are being played here and the butting heads that you always kind of have in the beginning of a Power Rangers season. The villain is building up really nicely. We get to see the headquarters from the original Mighty Morphin. I just think it's building some interesting blocks to become an even bigger series. So I like it. I'm curious to see where it's going to continue to go. So giving that 4 stars, and that is number 2. Moving on to number 1, one of my favorite series on stands, and that is Superman issue 22. I mean, there's not much else to say besides this book is nearly perfect. The artwork by Dan Mora. I'm so glad we have a premier artist like him on a Superman book. I love the dynamic between Lois and Clark. We get to see some of the other Super family members join in. All while this kind of bigger threat of Doomsday and this character who wants to kill Doomsday comes into the forefront. But the most interesting being that cliffhanger with Lois, her now having to make the decision, what are you going to do with Doomsday? You're going to kill him because, Jimmy's going to die if you don't. And I'm really curious what Lois is going to do because we've seen Superman's side of this story many times, but never Lois. So I thought that was a really interesting cliffhanger and just a really well-balanced issue. So giving that one 4.5 stars. Hopefully you guys enjoyed. This is Comic Uno. Let me know in the comments below what your favorite book was. And last week's pick of the week was Ultimate Wolverine. And here are some comments about that. Hopefully you guys enjoyed. This is Comic Uno. And I'll see you guys in the next one. Bye.